Whether it's medieval ruins, an abandoned Olympic track, or even an amusement park, nature will eventually come for it. Here are 15 astounding places reclaimed by nature. Starry Bar Montenegro. Starry Bar is a small town in Montenegro. Originally founded in the Middle Ages, its name translates to Old Bar, and it's located only a few miles inland from the new city of Bar. Over the centuries since its founding, the ownership of Bar changed a number of times. In the 11th century, the town was part of the Byzantine Empire before it became subject under the Serbian Empire, then annexed for a time by the Republic of Venice. The region changed hands 4 more times before, in 1878, it was awarded to the newly recognized Principality of Montenegro. Then, after the 1979 Montenegro earthquake, the site of Starry Bar was abandoned, and the new city of Bar was built near the coast at the old port facilities. Villere Abbey. This ancient Cistercian abbey is located in Villere la Villa in the Walloon-Brabant province of Belgium. Villere Abbey was founded in 1146 by 12 Cistercian monks and 3 non-ordained lay brothers of the Clairvaux Abbey in France. Construction of the current site didn't begin until the 13th century. The church itself took 70 years to build. During this time, the abbey had a boom in fame and may have housed up to 100 monks and 300 lay brothers at one point. The site was eventually abandoned in 1796 at the start of the French Revolution, and has mostly fallen into ruin. The Tunnel of Love. Between the cities of Klevan and Orziv in Ukraine, there is a stretch of railway that is 3 to 5 kilometers long that is known as the Tunnel of Love. It gets this unique name because of the natural green arches that have formed around the tracks, creating a beautiful tunnel that has become an attractive place for couples to take walks. But if you decide to take a walk through yourself, be sure that you know the train schedule. Vallone dei Mulini. The Vallone dei Mulini, or Valley of the Mills, is located in Sorrento, Italy. The valley is literally in the middle of the city, behind the Piazza Tasso. The valley naturally formed due to the release of waters into a limestone tufa plain about 37,000 years ago, after the eruption of the Campi Flegrei. The flour mills, which were built from stone, may have been built as far back as the 13th century. A sawmill was also built in the valley, and was producing sawn wood up until about the 1860s. But eventually the building was closed and abandoned in the 1940s. What was left behind became one of the most spectacular sights to see in all of Sorrento. Tongala Shipwrecks. Located off the west coast of Moreton Island in Queensland, Australia, are the Tongala Shipwrecks. The 15 wrecks in total were purposefully scuttled between the 1960s and 1980s as a way to retire the ships, and they have since become a man-made ecosystem for many kinds of sea creatures to make their homes. The wrecks also provide a great spot for people to anchor their boats, for snorkelers to explore the ruins underwater, and check out the marine life living there, including dolphins, sea turtles, wobbegongs, and over 200 varieties of fish. Costello D Venera. In Eris, Sicily, on a cliff that overlooks much of the city, stands the ruins of this Norman castle, known as the Castello di Venere, or Castle of Venus. Before the fortress was built there, it used to be a temple to Potnia, a goddess of fertility, worshipped by the Elemians, who were an ancient pre-Roman civilization. During the 12th century, the Normans used the stones of the temple to Potnia to build the castle. It's because of this that the castle got its new name, since Venus is the Roman goddess of fertility. Sarajevo Olympic bobsled track. In the city of Sarajevo, Bosnia, on the Trebević mountain is where this disused Olympic bobsledding track sits. When the city won the bid to host the 1984 Winter Olympics, they devised plans to build a bobsled and luge track, and in 1981 approved plans and began construction. The construction was completed in September 1982 at a total cost of 563,209,000 dinar, which is about 8.5 million in US dollars. The track was only open for about 10 years, closing in 1992. In the years after that, the tracks were unofficially used for bicycling and graffiti until renovations began in 2014, which are ongoing. It definitely looks like it'd be fun to fly down the track through the trees. What do you think? Pripyat, Ukraine. Have you heard of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster? Well, Pripyat, Ukraine is the city that was nearest the blast. Named after the Pripyat River, the city was founded in 1970 to serve the nearby nuclear power plant in Chernobyl. Pripyat was one of the Soviet Union's nuclear cities, a type of closed city which restricts travel and residency. The day after the Chernobyl disaster on April 27, 1986, the city's population of 49,360 people were evacuated. No one has lived in the the city since, though parts of the city have relatively safe radiation levels, and there are a few Ukrainian companies that offer tours of the zone of alienation. A notable landmark is the abandoned Ferris wheel of Pripyat amusement park, which never opened to the public, as it had been scheduled to open 5 days after the disaster occurred. Castle Island. In the middle of Lough Tay, in the county Roscommon, Ireland, lies Castle Island, a very literal name, as a castle sits on the island that looks like it's straight out of a fantasy story. The castle is McDermott's Castle, and it was built in the 12th century and occupied for about 4 centuries. It was rebuilt in the 18th century to act as a private summer home, but was burnt to the ground during a fire in the early 1940s. The ruins of the castle sit alone, being occupied by nature, at least until someone can come along to redevelop the island. Nara Dreamland. This theme park near Nara, Japan, simply known as Dreamland, opened in 1961. The park was heavily inspired by Disneyland, as businessman Kuzino Matsuo wanted to bring the then new Disneyland to Japan. Matsuo met with Walt Disney regarding the project. However, towards the end of construction, disagreements between Matsuo and Disney over character licensing fees caused the deal to fall through, and Matsuo's company decided to create their own characters. Later, after Tokyo Disneyland opened in 1983, attendance at the Dreamland started to decline, and continued to do so after 2001, when Tokyo Disney Sea and Universal Studios Japan opened. Dreamland was abandoned in 2006, and sat empty for 10 years until being demolished in 2016. La Petite Ceinture. La Petite Ceinture was a circular railway in Paris, France, originally built to supply the city's fortification walls, and as a connection between the city's railway terminals. It was built as 2 different lines, one for freight and one for passengers, starting in 1851, which together formed an arc around the northern 2/3 of Paris. Originally a freight-only line, the chemin de fer de Ceinture eventually became Paris's first metro-like transport. It was frequented by the public until 1900, when the Paris Metro opened, making the decline of the Ceinture. The tracks have been mostly abandoned since 1934, when their passenger service ended, and the future of the Ceinture has been in debate ever since. Prasad Tom Temple. The Prasad Tom Temple was built in 921 in the Kokhair region of Cambodia, while King Jayavarman IV and his son Harshavarman II ruled. Among the temples built at Kokhair, none are as grand as this temple. Towering 36 meters above the forest floor, this temple was not a representation of Mount Meru from Hindu-Buddhist cosmology. Instead, this temple was the base for a 4-meter-tall linga that was enshrined at its peak. Another unusual feature of this temple is that it doesn't have any large sanctuaries in the courtyard, and instead has small sanctuaries, resembling libraries at other Khmer temples. What could be the reason that this temple is so unique? North Brother Island. In New York's East River, there are 2 islands known as the Brother Islands. The northern island was completely vacant until 1885, when Riverside Hospital, a hospital originally established in the 1850s to combat smallpox by isolating and treating patients, moved to the island. The hospital eventually expanded its mission to all quarantinable ailments, and so a location on an island was a perfect place. North Brother Island is also known for being the final place that Mary Mallon, aka Typhoid Mary, was isolated for 2 decades until 1938, after which the hospital closed down. There were times the location was used again after that point. However, it was fully abandoned in 1963 and has been vacant ever since. A dense forest has sprung up around the ruins of the former hospital buildings, and the island is now designated as a bird sanctuary. Murugan Jera. Off the western coast of India, near the village of Murud, you'll find Murugan Jera, an island containing a fort that spans the majority of the island. A community was established on the island in the 16th century as a place for the Koli people, an Indian ethnic group, to live on peacefully and safe from pirates. At one point in its history, the island was captured by a man known as Piram Khan, though due to fortifications, he was unable to do so through conventional means. So in order to pull it off, he snuck onto the island, disguised as a merchant, and had his men hide in barrels. Certainly an unconventional tactic, and interesting indeed. Today, the ruins of Murugan Jera are now frequented by tourists, who get to the island by boat, not in barrels. Before we get to number 1, if you enjoy our videos, consider liking, subscribing to our channel, and leaving us a comment. We'd appreciate hearing from you. Number 1. Bang Mili. We go back to Cambodia, where we find the ruins of a Hindu temple, Bang Mili, located in Siem Reap. This temple was built in the same style as others in the main group of temples at Angkor, Cambodia, and so it is assumed that it was built in the early 12th century, though the exact time of its construction is unknown. Though it is smaller than the main temple, Angkor Wat, it still ranks among the larger temples of the Khmer Empire. The structure is largely built out of sandstone and has been left primarily unrestored, and trees and other foliage have sprung up amidst its towers and courtyards. Allowing nature to take its course has created some pretty captivating views, and made the location seem like the kind of place you'd see in a video game or movie. It's truly a sight to see if you ever have the chance.